So, appreciate you all for being here. Thank you kindly. We're going to go ahead and get into chapter 26, Love Unto Crypt. The Unexpected Grievous Incident, chapter 26. After lunch, Guru Kasa went to Seble and told her that the trip would be on the following night, and he would come himself to take her.
Since a sign might cause us to make a mistake, and it might wake others up as well. Instead of calling you, it seems to me that it is better if I slightly come in the middle of the night suddenly and take you away while everyone is sleeping. Therefore, make the secret door and your door ajar. As far as the clothes and stuff you are going to take are concerned, tie them up together and put them beside you. So, as soon as I come, we can just get up and go without anyone hearing our voices,
said Guru Kasa. Okay. Is Haptish the one who sleeps on this Medeb? Yes, she is. However, she barely sleeps here. The time she spends not sleeping here is more than when she does. Even when she does sleep here, she is so tired because of her daytime craziness. And as soon as her side touches the Medeb, her snore comes. By then, even if you pick her up and threw her down a cliff, she wouldn't feel it.
Good. However, make sure the secret door, as well as this room's door, is kept open in order that we shall leave without even our voices being heard. I entrust you. Otherwise, someone might awaken when I try to open your door.
Do not worry about it. After everyone is asleep, I will leave the door ajar so that it will still seem closed. My heart, however, has become highly disturbed. Ayakasa. Why is that? Seble asked, lowering her head slightly and looking at her cousin. Seeing the fear and worry that was making her heart disturbed in the midst of her happiness being shown on her pretty face, it came to his mind that the cause of her fear and worry was the thought he created, and he too became alarmed a little bit. Whenever a trip such as this is contemplated, it always disturbs the heart. It is inevitable. Right now, even my mind is disturbed too. Do not think it is only yours. Therefore, you do not need to be scared. No, simply, I just told you that my heart became disturbed, and I felt as if I had butterflies in my stomach. Nevertheless, as far as getting scared is concerned, no matter what happens, I will never get scared. It is not like that. I just feel butterflies in my stomach, that is all.
No, it is not just fear. It is the disturbance of the heart
Guru Kasa said, smiling a little unpleasant smile. Look at you. Look at you. When you joke, Seble said, smiling back to our cousin.
I give you my word of honor. I am telling you the truth. Getting scared is not the same as a disturbance of the heart.
How?
Well, for example, if you have ever been told that you're going to get a thing that you loved so much tomorrow or the day after, your heart will remain anxious until you get it. Well, then, this is yearning, but no fear. Right now, since you are yearning until you get what you have dreamed for, getting out of here, your heart gets anxious. So, what I mean is that you are not simply scared.
To see if what her cousin had said would be the answer for the anxiousness of her heart and the butterflies in her stomach, Seble fixed her eyes on the roof and kept thinking for a while. Since it didn't satisfy her completely, she just said, "Ah, never mind. Let it be." Breathing hard and long and looking at her cousin, her face was made more beautiful by her slight smile.
Ah, do not worry. Nothing will happen to us.
Her cousin said when getting up to leave. Having returned to his home from Seble, Gurukasa asked how Incopa was doing with the provisions she had been preparing for the trip. Do not worry about my part. I will get them for you tonight, Incopa reassured.
What have you prepared and finished? And what have you left with?
I have prepared small round dough balls, which are roasted for the journey, and ground linseed mixed with honey, and have prepared, which will be enough for 4 or 5 people for 1 week. These are already finished. Say one, since the meat has been cut up into small strips, and today is the third day, it will be dried up tonight. Say two, food from roasted barley flour mixed with honey is being prepared right now. I will finish it this evening. Are not you saying three? That is all. I will put all of these things in a line in front of you tonight. Then it is yours to bag and tie up according to its kind. The men's turn, said Incopa, leaning her neck to the left and partly exposing her beautiful teeth as she looked at her husband. Small round dough balls roasted. Food from a roasted barley flour mixed with honey ground and linseed mixed with honey and dried meat cut into strips. It is 4 kinds, not 3. That means you do not know how to count what you have prepared, he said as well, laughing a bit. It is good. It is enough. We will not let the proverbial saying happen to us. He who carries too many provisions will fall down without eating it. So, it is good that the provisions are moderate. Therefore, it is enough. By the way, have you ever seen a wife who prepares provisions and sends her husband away without knowing where he goes? Wives who want their husbands to come back will never ask them where they are going. In case a person that hasn't told the destination of where he is going gets lost, where would one go to look for him? Why, did not I tell you? Did not I tell you that until I got there and come back, no one needs to know where I would be going or even that I was going. When I come back, I will tell only you. For others, however, it is to remain a secret always. The reason why you are leaving might remain a secret. However, that you are going has already been known.
How? Who knows? Who has spoken?
Said Guru Kasa. He was alarmed a bit. I do not know. Maybe it is a simple guess. Having killed the soul, have you been selling all your cattle in order to flee? And those you could not sell, you have been taking away? This has been said in the city. Holde was telling me this a little while ago. Nkopa said, seeing her husband being alarmed, she was slightly laughing. Is it Darwit who told you this? Yes, Darwit, Holde.
First of all, there has been no one killed in the country, so how can I be a murderer? Moreover, when did I take the cattle away?
The cattle that Faraja took to Pachena to sell might be seen as an indication that you sent them away. However, I merely told you that, or what had been said. I didn't tell you, however, therefore, you should ask others your questions, not me. Nkopa said jokingly.
It is amazing. So many people will get arrested, convicted, and be sentenced to imprisonment or death penalty merely because of the gossip, which is raised by guessing. It is amazing. So many people will get arrested, convicted, and be sentenced to imprisonment or death penalty merely because of the gossip, which is raised by guessing. First of all, he who speaks without knowledge and only by speculation or conjecture will say, it might happen this way or that way. And the person who heard this would say, they said it happened this way or that way. Then a person who has been talked about like that would be under suspicion and get arrested. After conviction, he would be imprisoned or put to death for what has been talked about. Now, if there coincidentally happens to be a person who has been killed, unfortunately, I will be under suspicion and get arrested because of such talk.
Look, those who clearly tell why they have been selling the cattle and where they are going would get away from this kind of dangerous talk, which would evolve from guesswork to belief. Nkopa said, laughing now too.
I just told you the situation. However, my situation would not even get to this point before the present theory gets to a dangerous situation. I will come back from where I shall be going, and this one would vanish, and a new guess will be guessed.
He said, laughing. Ah, well, forget it then. Nkopa breathed out. Since she could not get the news she wanted, she went back to work. Bezabe ate his lunch in Gararaketu Kalemo's house and received the 5 bar from his friend. From there, he went to his school and told his teacher, Alak Kinfu, and his friends and fellows that he was going to Mankusa on the following day to organize the cattle and property which had been left in the hands of the trustees when his parents had died. And he He spent the night giving his belongings to the people of his choosing and bagging up what he was going to take.
No, you will just be going, as if you are dead. What is the reason we inherit your items? Does not it help you when you go back? Does not it help you when you get back?
Said Yitbarak, one of the people he was giving his items to.
When a person goes, his going is certain. His return is just a wish, however.
Bezabeh said sternly.
Do you think you will permanently stay in your home country?
I am thinking that I will return soon. Nevertheless, God is the one who will be implementer. Even between today and the day I am thinking to come back, who knows what is going to happen, save him.
As for that, you are right. No one really knows what will happen between today and the day you plan to return. Even between today and tomorrow, who knows what God is going to do?
Yitbarak said, truly, even between today and tomorrow, who knew what God would do? This one. What Yitbarak unintentionally said startled Bezabeh. On that night, before dinner, he wanted to go to Gurukas's house to see if Ezra had returned, but he thought of what they might say.
Might they say I went there seeking to eat dinner? Let them say I do not care. If he asks me to eat, I will. My going there is not to seek dinner. However, God and I both know this.
Said Bezabeh to himself. Afterward, when he went to Gurukas's house, he found him sitting alone at his door. When Bezabeh came to the door of the fence, Gurukasa said,
Who is it? Is it you, Ezra?
No, this is Bezabeh. Has Ezra returned?
No, he hasn't come yet. Now is the time for him to come back. When I saw you from afar, I thought it was him who came in.
If he hasn't come yet, do you think he will return tonight?
He will never stay there. Do not worry about it.
Well, then, why do you sit here all alone?
Bezabeh asked when he sat on the ground close to where Gurukasa was. I am waiting for Ezra.
In the meantime, I love watching the moon.
While I ponder about
Tomorrow's trip.
traveling while the moon is full.
Full is good. I do not believe in astrology. When I told you that the moon is good, be careful. I do not believe in astrology. It is out of astrology.
According to astrology, it is the new moon that is good. It is a full moon.
Even according to astrology, it would be said that a full moon is the best However, the reason I have told you that the full moon is good is because a new moon will come out early, and when the night gets heavy, it will leave you in the dark and will disappear. But a full moon will light your way and lead you through the night, and it will hand you to the sun when it becomes morning. Do you see? A full moon is just like an honest and true friend. It will be found whenever it is really wanted, but not when it is unwanted.
That is true. Well, what I heard was the reverse.
Yes. Look, tomorrow, with the moon just like this, we will get up from here when everyone is sleeping at midnight. And if we travel the way of the shortcut, we will get to the Abbey River.
In case it rains, will the mud and the rain let us go as we wish?
Once we go down the hill, the lowlands do not have mud. It is all sand. There will be no rain while the moon is full. Do not you see today's sky? It looks like a polished mirror.
Guru Kasa said, looking up at the sky.
Won't the river be full? Now July is almost over. July is one of the rainy seasons in Ethiopia. Winter, or the rainy seasons are June, July, and August. Won't the river be full? Now July is almost over.
July is one of the rainy seasons in Ethiopia. Winter, or the rainy seasons are June, July, and August.
As for the river, it is its time to be full. But there is a small river easier to cross down between Dima and Bichena, where it is easier to cross in the summer and in the winter. I have heard Ezra talk about it many times. Let us get there anyway. Do not worry. We won't have trouble. Many people frequent it this time of year because there are no rebels there. By the way, have you eaten dinner?
Guru Kasa said.
Not yet. I will go now and eat.
Before it gets late, go and eat. We won't be able to eat until Inkopa finishes preparing the food. We will be waiting.
It is better if there are not too many provisions. Kalemo has told me that his wife is also going to prepare food for the journey.
Will Kalemo also go? Or is he just going to help prepare the provisions and give it to us?
Yes, he plans to go. I told him that we had enough men, and it was unnecessary for him to go. But he said his heart would not be stable unless he joined us. He insisted that he would go with us, and I could not refuse.
It means he loves you very much. That is fine. Let him come. He will be a help to us. And as he said, his heart will be more at ease.
Yes, but such a favor is a heavy burden to me.
If he is your true friend, then will a true friend's favor feel like a heavy burden?
Yes, as far as love is concerned. When I see what he is doing for me, it seems to me that he loves me more than himself. I love him very much also, but this is too much favor. It seems to me that I won't be able to repay it, and it is heavy to me, and heavy on me.
Why is it heavy on you? A true friend gives his favor freely. He does not lend it.
Yes, as you said, a true friend would give his favor freely. He would not lend it. However, if one of the friends is always doing the favor to the other one, and if the other one is always receiving the favor, does not the one who does the favor get bored? And does not it become heavy on the one who receives if he cares?
I do not think so. Rather, as you said before, if he loves you more than he loves himself, even as he loves himself, and if you love him the same, a person does not count a favor he does for himself, so he likewise does not count the favor he does for the friend whom he loves as himself. Well, of course, a man does not have a friend whom he loves as himself, but the more he does favors for his friend whom he loves from his heart, his happiness increases, and he will never get bored. Doing favors for a friend he loves so much just makes him happier. Where there is a true friendship, there is no place for getting bored.
Yes, you are correct. But until today, he has been doing a lot for me. I was looking for what I did for him, but did not find the same. And it made me a little disappointed.
Have you ever denied him your help when he has been in need of your help?
Would I deny Kalemo my help if he needed my help? As for that, no.
Okay, well then, in order to find an opportunity to help out, do you want to see him being troubled?
In the name of God, let him be well. I do not want to see him being troubled, sir.
Beelzebub said in a slightly stern manner.
Look, well, what you said before is the opinion and the feeling of a spiteful friend. It is not the opinion and the feeling of a true friend.
How? What?
He who feels sad and wonders because he is in a situation in need of help and his friend is in a situation to give help might seem to feel sad because of his friend's good luck and of his own bad luck, or simply he is against his friend's good luck.
If you interpret it like that, you can. But when I see the love and the multitude of favors that exists directly between Kalemo and me, perhaps this multitude of favors only from one side might decrease or ruin our common love. I am afraid of it. Kalemo's love is just like a great wealth for me. I rely on it and think I will always have it whenever I need it. So I am careful not to create any reason that will decrease it, though I do not know more than you do. The proverb, if you like to continue with your friend, having love and respect, never his favor passes you by. Seems to me a good lesson to live by.
Yes, yes, it is a good proverb for those who are dealing in the name of friendship. However, those who do favors for others in order that they may receive favors in return are businessmen, but are not true friends from the heart. He who counts his favors and gives them, and later on counts and receives them back, is not a true friend. In my opinion, a true friend is one who happily does favors for his friend without counting them, and he would be just as happy to receive it when his friend does it for him. Now, go to your dinner. I do not believe we will finish our argument today.
The friendship that should exist between friends is as you have said, but it is not.
Bezabe said when he got up to leave. Bezabe arrived at the poetry school while the students were arguing about the poetry that had been composed impromptu. The students and teachers were all on the field, and it was hard to tell them apart. There were students interpreting the impromptu poetry, and others were helping interpret the composed poetry. Other students were conjugating verbs, and others were helping them to conjugate verbs. Altogether, they were making noise like the noisy shoppers who were doing transactions in a flea market, and in that manner it was difficult to distinguish between teacher and student, listener and speaker.
Is it recomposing time?
He said when he got to his hut, finding Vredu sitting outside waiting for him.
Right now, the study is about to be finished. The students whom you usually help came here, but I told them you were not here. I sent them back.
Vredu said.
I had a serious affair to attend, and I returned late. How much poetry has been composed?
Only one full poem.
One full poem is not much. I will help you finish it during the night study. The moonlight is better than lightning. Twaf, anyway. Bring our dinner here and tell them the newly composed poetry while we are eating,
said Bezabe while putting a goza on the plain stove, which was called the teacher's stone, and he seated himself on it. Vredu brought a wat that was made from powdered beans and injera, and also many pieces of different kinds of injera that was solicited from many different homes in the community. While they were eating, Vredu told Bezabe the poetry that had been composed impromptu. When they finished their dinner, the study, as well as the noise, became silent.
May I get you to study a little, or will you sleep?
Bezabe said to Enoch.
I do not feel to sleep, but let us go to sleep now, and I will study during the night rather than disturb those who are sleeping.
Accepting Enoch's thought, Bezabe went and lay down on his bed so he could get up for night study. He could not fall asleep, however. It appeared to him that that night would be the night, the final night. He would sleep in that hut and on the wooden bed, and on the next day, at that time, he would elope with someone's daughter. That night, the new chapter in his life would begin. He thought, of his school life coming to an end on that night, and he would be starting another kind of living and another kind of life that he would not know, and the things that might come for him and that might come against him. And he besides thought of Seble's nightmare. While all these things were appearing to him, his eyes being open the whole time, and while he was turning and tossing on his side, the night almost passed by, passed away. The night almost passed away. He was tossing and turning. Once his body got finally exhausted and he was about to fall asleep, the bell for night study rang. Then, although his sleep was in his eyes, he thought of Enoch and the other students who would be sitting outside and waiting for him. And since he felt that he was the one who had interrupted their study earlier by staying out late, he felt he had to get up. Stretching and yawning, he managed to get up somehow. He splashed his face with cold water without putting his trousers on and wearing a tunic. He covered up with his gabe and put on burnous and went out, as usual, sitting on a goza that was on the plain stone. He started teaching conjugation of verbs for those who were studying verbs, and for the students who were studying poetry, he interrupted the poetry that had been improvised earlier during the night. Other students were also out, sitting on the stones in front of their huts. They were circling their own teachers. They were circling their own teachers. In that manner, the night lesson and the noise began. During the prime study, a man came from outside. The man was speaking for a little while to one of the students who was sitting and studying outside of the hut near the fence. Then the man headed straight towards Bezabe's hut. "Is this Aya Bezabe's hut?" asked the newcomer, pulling aside one of the students who were clustering around Bezabe and studying. "Yes. What happened?" the student asked. "Where is he?" "He is the one covering up and sitting in the midst of the students," the student replied, pointing with his chin toward Bezabe, since Bezabe was entirely giving his thoughts, eyes, ears, and body to his teaching. He didn't notice the man who came from outside and was talking to the student. "Please tell him to come and talk to me alone. I have a serious message," said the newcomer. The student approached Bezabe and told him that a strange person wanted to see him. Raising his head in the light, raising his head in the light of the moon, Bezabe saw that the strange man was Ezra. Bezabe stood up, being alarmed. Grabbing Ezra's hand, he went a little way from the students. "Ezra, what happened?" asked Bezabe. "Nothing. However, I returned last night from my trip. I was very tired when I got home. Without even really eating my dinner well, I fell asleep. From my sleep, Ayakasa woke me and sent me to tell you to have your things ready and to come soon. This is why I ran and came to you, despite the fact that I was very tired," Ezra said, when he told Bezabe his complaint that he had been awakened from his sleep to bring the message. Bezabe could see that He was not at all pleased. Did you return well from where you had gone? Well, well, Ezra said, still displeased. Good. Wait for me outside the fence at the gate. I will gird up right now and come out, said Bezabet. He returned to his students and clapped for their attention. When they became silent, he said,
The merchants who appointed me to go on a trip sent a messenger indicating that the time for the trip is now. Consequently, I am now about to depart. For the time being, go to any teacher who you want and listen. From tomorrow on, however, you will have a new teacher. I already talked to Yanetta and the other teachers yesterday, so that another teacher would be assigned to you. Well then, until we meet again, goodbye.
and he went to his hut to gird up.
Getting up now. Where will we go? It will become morning on us, even going down the hill. Besides, did Chief Casa face a reason to change his plans? Wasn't it tomorrow night that we made our appointments to leave from here?
He said to himself, but he had no answers. Girding up quickly, he held up the pouch that he had already tied up and prepared, and kissing Enoch goodbye, he went out.
Did you come back successful from the mission you were sent on, Ezra?
He asked as he went out from the fence, where he found Ezra standing and waiting for him. Please, it was as much as giving them away. Hayakasa, however, is saying it was, or saying it is, a good price.
Generally, how much did they value?
Generally, wait a moment. Generally, 10 short of 100 I have gotten.
That is a good price, Ezra.
Oh, Ayabezebe, you do not know cattle. The 2 oxen looked like they swallowed up other oxen. They will never get tired no matter how much they plow. Do you know how much they sold for? 20. 20! 1 pregnant cow. That will be 2 tomorrow, and that will never be empty, no matter how much she gets milked. For how much do you think I threw her away? The same for her. Just 20. 2 cows that just stopped giving milk and were due to get pregnant. I threw each of them away for just 15 each, as if his hand was caught while stealing. If he was asked to pay the price of a soul, he told me that I should sell them at any offered price and not to bring them back. Well, of course, Ayakasa is a very kind person. The 2 mules, he threw them away for a cheap price. And now, these cattle, as if they were stolen. When he told me that I should sell them by any price offered, is it something that a normal person would do? I do not know. Sell them by any price you can get. Is that what a normal person would do?
Bezabeth said. He was thinking about the trip in his own mind, and all he heard from Ezra was his saying that the money he had gotten was 10 short of 100. So they went on like that, Ezra speaking without a listener and Bezabeh asking himself questions that had no answers. When they arrived around Garragetta Kalemawok's house, Bezabeh said,
You go on, Ezra. I will drop by this house, and I will come right away.
he showed his friend's house with his finger.
Okay, since he told me to tell you to come soon, do not stay long.
Ezra said as he was walking away.
I may catch up to you on the way.
Bezabeh said, going to his friend's house. He called Garragetta and knocked slightly on his door with his stick. Who is there? Garragetta called from inside.
Get up, Kalemo. We are about to leave. It is I, Bezabeh. Get up soon. We must go.
Right now? Is not it nearly morning? Garragetta said, alarmed, as he searched for his trousers.
I've been saying the same thing too. But that is okay. Be fast. If the provisions are not tied up, forget it. Or let Taitu tie it up. If we stay there a little while, we can run back and take it with us.
That is good, said Garragetta, girding up right away. He said goodbye to his wife in case they wouldn't meet again. Bezabeh also said goodbye to her, and they ran to Guru Kasa's house. When they entered the compound, a mule was not seen, nor was there a round basket for food for the journey, nor was there a thilcha, nor a pouch for clothes anywhere. Generally, it didn't appear that the house was prepared at all for the long journey planned. There was no sign of movement or preparation even to go to the market for shopping and then come back. It was very calm. When they saw that there was no preparation at all, they slowed down and stopped running. Bezabeth felt the feeling that made his heart grow cold and his nerves numb. Guru Kasa was seen putting on his clean clothes and barnus as if he was about to celebrate a holiday. He was standing by the door of his house, having stopped running after they got to the compound. Bezabeh and Kalemo were walking in the compound. When Guru Kasa saw them coming to the house, he went outside to receive them.
Good morning to you, Bezabeh. Is he Garraketa Kalemo? Though we never had a talk, we know each other by appearance.
Guru Kasa said when they met. I know you well, said Garraketa. Well, let's get in, he said, and he stepped forward to lead his guests into his home. Split firewood was burning, and the entire house was lit. Bezabeh thought that he would find Seble there, but he did not find her, and he was greatly disappointed and felt some kind of emptiness inside of him. Even Guru Kasa was unprepared for the journey. What was the reason he pressured him to rush as he had and made him come? The reason for selling all the cattle and the importance of the night journey was to steal Seble and to travel all night long and to get to the lowland of Abe by dawn during that night. Well, where was Seble? Who was to be so stolen? Where was Seble, who was to be stolen? Well, where was Seble, who was to be stolen? Who was to be stolen? Being afraid of asking Guru Kasa those kinds of questions and other questions that looked like it, Bezabeh remained silent. When they entered the house, And while they were standing in a circle around the fire, before they even took a seat, Guru Kasa said,
Look, Bezabeh, all of our thoughts, all of our efforts have been ruined and have become unmitigated disaster. Rimashesha returned after everyone had gone to sleep. We were stirring there.
while Guru Kasa was speaking, and before he even finished what he thought to say, Bezabeh felt weak, as if he got hit on the head with a stick or a stone. He said, "Ugh." He felt that he was twirling like a head of a spindle. He felt the floor he was standing on was spinning around, and as if he was looking for something to hold on to and lean upon, he stretched his hands left and right and brought them back. He staggered a bit and felt like a tree that was cut. He swung about and crashed down. He had fallen down forward. He would have entered the fire. Fortunately, he fell backward and he survived the fire. Until he fell, neither Gurukasa nor Garagetta knew that he felt giddy. Only when they saw him falling down did they become alarmed, and they quickly helped him get up, straightened his head, and laid him on Gurukasa's bed. When he was on the bed, blood began flooding from his nose. Immediately, Gurukasa called Nkopa and told her to bring a wet cloth that they put on his head. Likewise, she brought another one and put it on his head, having taken the former one from his head. They continued to dampen the cloth and put it on his head 3 or 4 times. When his nosebleed finally stopped, Bezabeh was able to open his eyes. His head, that was just hit by such bad news, was not soothed yet. However, he recognized Gurukasa and Kalemo when he saw them sitting beside him. Then it came to his mind in an unclear way that he had been running and had come to elope with Seble and go to Addis Ababa with them. Where are we? Have we gotten to Addis Ababa? Or where are we? Where's Seble? When he asked that, Gurukasa's tears came. Gurukasa turned his face around so that Bezabeh would not see him. Kalemo did the same, having his eyes closed for a while. When he opened them once again, though, he still felt his head wound. His giddiness passed away. He saw the people sitting beside him and all the things in the house, the center pillar, the beams, and the fire. They all appeared calm to him. Then he stayed for a little while, opening his eyes without blinking, and his forehead was seen wrinkled in the midst of his eyebrows. He suddenly remembered what Gurukasa had said.
All of our efforts have been ruined and have become unmitigated disaster. Vitwari Mashesha has returned in the night.
Right away, his stomach became agitated and stirred up, which in turn disturbed his entire body. Once again, all the things around him started to twirl around him.
I think I am about to throw up. My stomach, my head, my entire body got disturbed.
Bezabeh said, turning from his back to his side.
Nkopa, quickly, bring a bowl or a saucepan.
Gurukasa said. As soon as Nkopa brought a wide bowl, Bezabeh raised himself up and began throwing up. After he had finished throwing up, the light illuminated that most of his vomit was blood. Gurukasa and Garraketu were both alarmed. However, Bezabeth felt relieved after the vomit was able to raise himself up. He felt relieved after the vomit and was able to raise himself up.
By the way, who told you that the Lord had returned?
He asked, with his head bowed, continuing to brood for a little while.
I was staying there for the night. I returned when I saw that Ezra was coming to you.
Well, if you knew that the Lord had come and we could not be going, why did you send for me and tell me to have all my things?
Ftqvari came after hearing everything. He plans to arrest you in the morning. And I heard him order his servants. So I did it in order that they would not arrest you.
He has heard too?
Yes,
What has he done to Seble? Has he whipped her?
Bezabeth asked with a broken voice. He was scared and slightly turned his eyes to Gurukasa.
he did not whip her, but he tied her up.
Gurukasa replied and bowed his head. He felt extreme sadness, but he suddenly remembered what Seble had gone through when she was tied up. Then both of them bowed their heads and started brooding. It has dawned now. Let me take Bezabeth to my house. In case Fatwari's men come here, they won't find him. Garragetta said.
No one will come here. However, your house is dangerous if anyone knows of your friendship.
Gurukasa replied. Everyone knows of our friendship.
In that case, it is better for him if he stays here.
While Gurukasa and Garragetta were talking about where Bezabeth should be staying, Bezabeth was not listening. He was thinking about the mistreatment of Seble that she went through when they tied her up. He was deciding what he would have said and done to the person who tied her up if he had been there. Okay. Yeah, I appreciate you all for being here. Like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. Yeah, I feel like we're collectively on a journey together, a literary journey. So check out the Substack, right? That was 26, chapter 26. This is chapter 27. How Seble got tied up and locked up. Victoria Seje had held Victoria Mashesha, as well as the peasants, and taken them to Marcos, the capital city of Gojam. The capital city of Gojam. While they were traveling to Marcos, the thing that was as heavy as grave as dark as hell and as scary as death to Ftwari Mashesha was, to see the faces of the aristocrat and the army that he had known by face as well as by name. Until that day, Ftwari Mashesha had been the mighty and famous hero of many battlegrounds, and never had he been defeated. Ftwari Mashesha had been nominated as the man of all men and a hero of all heroes, and was respected and feared by all. Most of the times, Ftwari Mashesha tied up his captives or had them carried, or had them carry his booty, and he would walk ahead with pride, puffing up his chest and shoulders, raising his head up, and bragging. He would be seen in the public square of Marcos. People would yearn to see him in that situation, but now he was a captive of the peasants and the prisoner of Ftwari. His weapons were ripped off from him, and he walked with his head down, degraded, driven like cattle into the public square that had so admired him on other occasions. It was a great humiliation, felt like death to Ftwari Mashesha. However, humiliation would be gone with the passage of time. Having gotten into Marcos, the longer he stayed there, the more he forgot that he was a captive in the hands of peasants. Regardless of the embarrassment, he started to think and get concerned about the case he had with the peasants. As Ftwari Asage handed over his prisoners to the chief usher of the king of Marcos, having made them bring bail, the chief usher led them to the seats. Then, in their own parts, Ftwari Mashesha and the peasants were given an opportunity to present their cases. In order to win, both sides started to bribe the jurors. Not only the jurors, but also the persons who could convince the jurors, bribing and at the same time explaining their case. The struggle began. They kept giving bribes until they finished their own money, even having borrowed. The peasants wanted Ftwari Mashesha to pay the price of a soul and return all the property he had plundered, and to compensate the peasants. They also wanted his fiefs to be repealed from him because he asked them to pay something to feast on the holiday, which had not been decreed for him before. They argued that without such a decree from the king, he made a raid against the peaceable people who were given to him to protect. He plundered them like a rebel would, whipped the women and children, and caused 2 people to be killed. Ftwari Mashesha, in his own part, wanted the peasants to pay him the benefits that he had lost. Namely, because of their arrogance, they assigned Seble as their ringleader and plotted against him, and they had refused to give the governor honey, butter, fattened sheep, goats, even a kuna of grain, and came to his home empty-handed on a great holiday feast of Easter. And besides, they assigned Abejebelu as their chieftain to judge them and to do the reconciliation should a fight break out, and to be their middleman when they did the wager. And then during the fight, they had tried to kill him by burning his house down and had killed one of his servants. In this way, the case between Ftwari Mashesha and the peasants proceeded. This kind of case raised during that time between Ftwari Mashesha and the peasants who had been living in his fiefs. The judgment to be given would touch many people's benefits and rights. Moreover, since it appeared to be touching the general relationship that would exist between the government and the subjects, it became an issue for the people to talk about and debate for some time to come. People would talk about it and debate it on all occasions, namely in the banquet, in the assembly, and in the bars. And whenever the case was presented to the court, many would come to the courtroom to criticize the case, and others would come to see and hear those who would criticize the case. Whenever the case between Mashesha and the peasants was in the court, many people would come, so there was not enough room to sit or even to stand in the courtroom or the courtyard. Traditionally, a case that was presented to the court would be concluded following the judgment given by those in the bench or by the king if he happened to be sitting at the time. However, there were many scrutinizers and scholars following every step of the case who would frequently attend the courtroom simply to show that they knew litigation or to see the person whom they wanted to get the accurate judgment. And those kinds of people were able to criticize the case that was presented to the court freely and to show the case after scrutinizing it and give their own judgment during the verdict. It was difficult for the judge who got bribed to appear as if he didn't take any bribe and to make a decision by twisting the judgment without exposing himself and getting criticism in favor of the one that had given a bribe. So, that case was something that would be touching the rights of many people. One day, the justice would seem to be leaning toward where the most of his bribe had come from. And the next day, it would seem that he was looking in the other direction. More bribes were given, and the case went on and on. One day, Ftwari Mashesha would seem to be the victor, and the next day, the tide would be changed, and the peasants were winning. With no decision made, the conclusion seemed further away, and the case stayed in the court for more than a month. For a judge who had taken a bribe, his main help to the person who had given the bribe was to make sure that the truth would not be seen being magnified and his wrong not recognized. He would have to make it appear that the guilty person could not be clearly proven guilty, but if the truth could be clearly seen and the guilty party was clearly guilty, it would be impossible even for a judge who had been bribed to twist justice. A judge with a healthy brain would never do this. In the case of Twadi Mashesha and the peasants, after dragging the case on for days and days without reaching a conclusion, the bribed judge tried to end the case in the Lord's favor, but the other judges who had not received the bribe were very critical and refused to go along. To them, they could clearly see Twadi Mashesha's guilt, and his cruelty could be seen even more clearly. And since the money Twadi Mashesha had borrowed to give bribes from merchants and relatives and friends was unable to cover the fact that he was in fact guilty and cruel, the judges were unable to help him, even those he had bribed. In the end, he did not have to pay the price of a soul, compensate the peasants, or return the plundered cattle and property. These were dismissed. However, he did have to pay a fine of 200 bar, and in addition, his 3/5 got repealed. After such a struggle, on the day the judgment was given, while the peasants were claiming victory in court, Twari Mashesha was like a person who stood up during his sleep, being in a stupor with dull eyes. He was looking at them. The judgment was in favor of the peasants and against him. He did not think it could be true after having given so much money to the juries, to their relatives, and to their friends, and after they had given him their word. How could they have judged against him? They had stood in front of him and promised him, saying, "Let God help, do not worry. And still they lied. How could he be judged against? It was something that did not seem true, but it was. Bring bail, Ftkwari, to pay your fine of 200 birr and give up your 3 fiefs. Bring bail. The usher of the seats repeated to Ftkwari.
Ah,
Ftkwari said, as if he suddenly opened his eyes after a long sleep. Bring bail, repeated the usher.
no, I do not have bail. I won't bring bail.
Ftkwari Mashesha said when he realized that it was true. It will be better if you bring bail so that you won't get imprisoned.
I would rather get imprisoned rather than accepting such a judgment. I would prefer to get imprisoned.
As if what happened to us is not enough. If you get imprisoned and mistreated, it has no use, my lord. Please, say you will bring one. Balambaras Mateko said as he approached Ftkwari Mashesha. Commander Desta, Kanjamakakalu, and his other relatives lulled him for a while, and then he turned and said,
Kinjamak, Ayele, Hailu, be my bail.
No, I cannot.
Futquaria berra saye, be my bail.
No, I cannot.
Gurrama gurrum serra, be my bail.
No, I cannot.
Look, I am unable to get bail. On the public square where I grew up and grew old, I am unable to get bail. I am bail for myself. Well, get me imprisoned.
I will be bail. Ftwari Tferre Dinberu said. Another one, said the usher. Am I not enough that another bail is needed? I will be bail for the fine, as well as to bring him in whenever he is wanted. I am bail for both. Ftkwari Tferre Dinberu said, turning toward his seats. We do not care if Ftkwari Tferre Dinberu says that he is enough for everything. Then no problem, appoint him, usher, said one of the seats. Afterward, everyone who knew them, on the left and right, surrounding them, started to congratulate those who won the judgment in their favor and comfort those who were judged against. And they all left the court. Ftkwari was still in a state of shock and was unable to think or speak clearly. When time passed, his annoyance gradually cooled down. He eventually believed that time was responsible for his failure on the battlefield as well as in the court. He believed that it had nothing to do with his weakness or mistake. So he absolutely got comforted. Criticizing the time and embittered by it, he would speak of the events bitterly to everyone he met.
What shall we do when God made our age long and forced us to live in such a slothful and deceiving era? An era of honor and heroism has been replaced by a different kind, namely where people who hide and cheat and lull, just like a thief, brag on their deeds as if they took captive the judge who took a person's money to help and confirmed by swearing in the name of all the saints would judge against if he did not receive anything. When this kind of error came against us, what should we do? During my time, a hero would brag about winning a battle in which he had to fight his enemy face to face, beat him, and make him a captive. A judge in those times would take the bribe money, make an oath of allegiance, and never change his mind. But not today. Today is an era of deceivers and broken promises. The deceivers feel that their deceptive ways are heroic and all promises are broken. Oh, and the promise breakers are proud of it. However, I, Mashesha, think this is not a real loss of victory or defeat. I will never put it into my mind that I was defeated in such a way.
Fatwari would say, "That is true. That is true." His relatives would agree with him, not because they actually believed in what he was saying, but not to annoy him any further. Fatwari would mention the people by name that he knew and by sign that he did not know. He would thank those who had supported him, and he would rebuke and insult those who had criticized and ruled against him. He said one day,
A son of a gentleman, no matter what happens, will never forget his being a son of a gentleman. Dat Fatwari Teferred in Beru. We never even gave him a lamb. We never even went to his door for a day. We did not even have close friendships except knowing each other in a distance. We never asked him for anything. He decided to defend me and came out and became my bail because as a son of a nobleman, he thought the other nobleman's rights should be respected. He said, what right does anyone have to hurt a nobleman? And why should the truth be distorted? That is why he did it. Like the proverb, when an honest person is found amongst the rascals, he too would be called a rascal. So since he told the truth, everybody opposed him.
Fatwari Teferre Demberro is a good person. It is known by everybody. However, the reason he firmly stood up for us like that, he has a reason.
Commander Desta exclaimed.
What reason would he have? What reason other than seeking the truth is there? You simply want to reduce the value of this good person. You want to find a reason for everything. You have a reason not to criticize a wrongdoer, and you find a reason not to honor someone who does well. It is truly a bad habit, Commander.
No, it is not like that, Fatwari. I would not mean that he didn't do it for the sake of truth or to decrease or to decrease the value of his good deed, although Fatwari Teferre Demberro is to be thanked for what he has done in the name of truth. There is something that he has been coming so often to get. So he did it in order that you would count it as a favor for him. This is what I am saying. Since he has done a great favor for us, he does deserve a great deal of favor, is what I mean. Not to decrease his value, however.
For whom has he come repeatedly? What big favor does he want?
Fatwari asked, not understanding what Commander was saying. Commander Desta looked first at Balambaras Mateko and then at Kenjimakakalu and said,
Please help me out.
Ftquarit Fared Mbero has been asking Commander Kenjimakakalu and me to beg you to give him Seble's hand ever since we came to Marcos. He has been bothering us by asking wherever we go. We decided that we would not tell you before the case was finished, and we kept it as a secret. Yesterday he came up to our tent and told us that he was about to go to his country, and he insisted that we should tell him the answer. We told him that we would tell you today. That is what the commander meant by saying that Fitquari Tafare Demberro would ask repeatedly for high favor. The man is a good man, and he knows litigation and is a man of the public square, Balambaras Mateku said. Well, he is a lord as well. The cows, oxen, horses, and mules that he owned. Can anybody count it all? Commander Desta said. He is a son of a lord. The king had been a king nominally, however. Was not his father Commander Demberro who melted up Gojim like beeswax and hammered it like iron and governed it then? Kenjimakakalu added. He is the son of a lord. The king had been a king nominally, however, was not his father Commander Dimberro who melted up Gojam like beeswax and hammered it like iron and governed it then? Genji Makakalu added, while his relatives, turn by turn, praised Ftquari Tafari Dimberro. Ftquari Meshesh was simply staring with his old eyes. First, the sign of alarm, then the sign of happiness, and then the sign of displeasure were seen passing over his old man's face. Ftquari Meshesh had been admiring Ftquari Tafari Dimberro for his eloquence at court that he had shown while defending that the son of the Lord should be respected and the peasant should know that they were the subjects and should be living as subjects. He had shown that he knew that from the very beginning, the obligation of the subjects. Ftwari Meshesh had loved him and admired him for it, but he never thought that he wanted to marry his daughter. So when Balamba Rasmatekuk told him the message, he became alarmed. In the meantime, he remembered that he was a gentleman who came from a lord's family and was a well-off person. His heart was warmed by happiness, and his brilliance was seen on his face. But when he thought of the noblemen's sons who had begged Seble's hand and then retreated, he became displeased, thinking that he would be the same as the others.
Good. To marry Seble. I never thought he wanted to marry Seble. Well, of course, his father was a good, sophisticated man. I knew him. Therefore, if the marriage is going to happen, it is something not to be found, even if I saw it. But
Fatwari said. Having been silent for a long while, his face was covered with unhappiness, and he turned up his bowed face and looked at his relatives. But what? Commander asked, since Fatwari didn't finish what he thought, but was simply staring and remained silent after he said, but.
But I was thinking of the previous ones. I hope no spiteful or malicious person would be getting into it. I hope it won't be vain. The marriage, however, is not to be found even if sought. That is what I mean.
Fatwari said, well, of course, that is God's turn. However, I do not think this person will go back on his word. Even yesterday, he said that, should we get your agreement, he said he would give 200 bar dowry right then if you would allow it. We, however, told him that we could not accept the dowry, even if you agreed, before her mother and family heard of the match and agreed upon it. So you see, he is very anxious. It does not seem he will renege on his word, Commander said.
You did the right thing for telling him that. However, I won't, or rather, I hope it won't, give away to a spiteful person who would like to destroy it, but to make it seem that we are not trouble for being unable to find a husband for Seble. It is good to tell him we must first discuss it. We do not want to make it look like we would be saying, anyone who wants a wife, come here. So, you're telling him that we would be discussing the matter among the relatives is good.
Fatwari said. While Fatwari and the relatives were talking about Sabel's engagement, Fatwari's concubine, Mrs. Yasarash, thought that she found something for the thing that had been bothering her for weeks, and she was listening. Mrs. Yasarash knew that Sabel had never done badly to her or spoken a wicked word against her. However, she would hate her because she was the daughter of the wife who had taken her man, and she was looking her in the same eye as she would see her mother. Yasarash knew that Sibel's father loved her very much, and he would hate anyone who would hate her. So, not to be hated by Fatwari, she pretended to love his daughter, even though she hated her. A businessman who came from Dima told Yasarash the news that had been talked in Dima, that Sibel became pregnant by Bezabeh. Now, she had a good weapon with which to hit Sibel and her mother. She had been so happy for the week that her heart could hardly hold. She didn't know even what to do. However, if one didn't know how to use a weapon, the harm it would cause could be greater than the benefit it would give. Therefore, to hit and get rid of a person whom one wouldn't like once and for all, it would take not only a good weapon, but also a good opportunity and a good way for using it. She had been waiting until she got that opportunity. She found it on that day. After all she had to do was to cover her inward happiness with sadness and tears. There would not be any problem to do it. First, since her tear was an obedient subject that would soon respond soon, she would cry. She would cry. And when Fatwari asked her what was wrong with her, she would say, "Eh, nothing is wrong with me," and continue crying until Fatwari touched her face, lulled her, and wiped her tears off from her eyes, and finally got her to talk about her hardship. It was how it went. Miss Yesarash had everything organized in her mind, and she was sure it would happen the way she had planned it. Having put it in her thoughts, she started looking for something that would make her cry. However, on the day after she had it all planned. The surprising thing was that the thing that would make her cry whenever she had thought of it in the past didn't touch her heart or make her cry on that day. Her tears not only refused her command, but also refused her plea, her lulling, and her fluttering. Tears spring out from a smooth heart, not from the heart that has become hardened and stiffened by grudge and revenge. On that day, when she was planning her revenge, she clenched her teeth. When she saw her enemy with her mind's eye, her heart, however, became hardened. It refused to be touched. It refused to spring out tears, though she tried hard. She bit her lip, but still no tear came out. She could not carry out her plan. She became panic stricken and did not know how to proceed the way she had planned.
What is wrong with you, my dear?
Ftwadi asked, looking at the situation of his concubine. What? What is wrong with? What is wrong with me? I am fine.
Our daughter is getting a husband who is the son of a lord. This is what we have been wishing for. Does not this make you happy?
Yes, very much so. Miss Yesaras said simply as her mouth brought it up. She looked like a thief who was caught while stealing. It showed that she was troubled about what to say next.
What is wrong? I can tell you are not happy. Why not? She is your daughter too.
Why would not I be happy? Said Miss Yesarash, being attentive somehow.
Though you did not give birth to her, she is your daughter, who you have raised up. So be happy.
I made a vow, poured my tears. I have been begging and imploring St. George of Dima, who would reach out instantly and fulfill our wish. What other thing is there that would make me happy? But, Ftwari's concubine said. Finally, her tears came streaming out of her.
But what?
Ftwari said, slightly alarmed. No, the news which has been coming from home does not make one happy.
What has been heard from home? What happened to my wife? What happened to her?
As for her, what would happen to her?
Well, is it my daughter then? What happened to her?
He asked. His entire body was shaking. Both of them are well, my lord. However, some malicious people who have decided to ruin a person's reputation have created such scathing news that it has carpeted this from far from Dima. Although there is no doubt that the news is false. A man like my lord, who is prestigious and whose honor has been known throughout the entire land of Gojam, before making an agreement, let's make sure the news is false. It is good for dignity as well as for the name. That is what I mean. Yesarash said. Ftwari's appearance made her forget everything that she prepared.
Okay, either it is false or you think of my dignity. Now, tell me what has been said.
Ftwari said impatiently, as if hearing the bad news that had been heard from home would relieve him from his worry. What has been said, and may God make it untrue, is that while my lady has been out of the house and staying wherever she wanted to, Seble has been left alone with her teacher without any keeper, and since they were together, he violated her, and she has become pregnant. That is it. Of course, I did not believe it. It is absolutely false, she said, looking into his face and seeing it change from red to yellow and then to black repeatedly. His entire body was trembling with anger, and she became frightened.
How? What are you talking about? Are you not well? Shut your mouth. My daughter Seble got violated, became pregnant. What are you talking about?
Fatwari demanded. His twin horns were erected on his head. His eyes were swollen with blood and came out completely from their sheath and stuck out his face. Unwittingly, he stood up and stretched both of his hands forward, and erecting his fingers as if he wanted to strangle Miss Yesarash. He went toward her neck. I told you because I thought it was good for you to clear your name as well as your honor. I didn't tell you because I thought it was true. There is no doubt at all that it is false, Miss Yesarash said, jumping nervously, thinking he would strangle her at any moment.
Oh, Mashesha, before I die, before I become dust, my daughter has been violated in my own interior room. She has become pregnant. I've been thinking I am alive, but I am not. I am dead. The fiefs that my grandparents and great grandparents possessed by their blood and gave to me, to their son as a present, has been revoked. My daughter, as if she had no father, as if her father was dead, has been violated. Yes, it is because I am dead. I am dead.
He crossed his hands behind his back and kept walking to and fro in his wide tent for a moment. When he became tired, he went and sat down. He bowed his head and began thinking. He still kept bowing his head and closing his physical eyes, and opening his mind's eye, he began criticizing the God who brought him such trouble upon the other trouble he already had. He found God sitting on his divine throne with divine glory, while his holy angels and righteous martyrs were lined up on the left and right, and he courageously told him the maltreatment he had done to him and the violence that he had been done to him, and the violence that had been done to him. And it appeared to him that God too understood that he had been maltreated unduly and felt sorry for him.
Why has this happened to me, my lord? I have observed your fast, celebrated your holidays, and given you alms. I lived within your laws and commandments. Why do you do such a thing to your believer and servant? Why have you brought such violence and trouble that has not happened, even to the wicked persons, but to me? I didn't sin against you. I have been your servant and have lived happily with you. Even if I sinned against you, when my time to come to you arrives, when my time to die arrives, would you call me having stripped off my glory and covered me with embarrassment and humiliation? This would not happen even to the poor beggars who lived with nothing but embarrassment and being naked. When they die, they would go to their graves with glory that they never had, wrapped with a clean shroud that they never had. This is how they would come to you. What did I say against you? How did I maltreat you so that you judged me to go to my grave while my corpse is covered up with clothes ruined by indecency and degradation? Please tell me how I wronged you. Had I maltreated you, even unwittingly, would not you call me while I was with my glory and when I was being respected?
When he said this, Ftkwari felt that God too felt sorry for his situation, and he believed God was telling him the news was false.
If he says so, nothing is impossible for him,
Said Ftkwari, breathing out a long sigh. Then, lifting his eyes up and fixing them on the roof of the tent, he remained thinking for a long time, and then he said to his concubine,
Go to Mesarat and tell him to load up my horse. Let only a horseman and one person who can run follow me. I am getting up to go to Dima right now. You have the train and the rest of the people, and get up tomorrow.
Where will you get to if you get up now, my lord?
Just do what I told you to do.
Ftkwari said angrily. When Kenjimakakalu and Balambaras Mateko heard that Ftkwari had gotten up suddenly and was heading to Dima, they rode on horses and followed him. They found him and the others. They found him and the others who were with him by Shamoga River. They found them being troubled because they did not have a way to cross the river. Commander Desta and the other aristocrats had stayed the night and got up the next morning with the train. The flood of the Kamoga River had taken down all it encountered on its sides. Having passed its brim of the river, it was covering the fields on the left and right of it, and it seemed more like a sea than a river. When Ftwari saw it, he gave them trouble by saying they should cross by swimming. Kanjimakakalu and Balambaras Mateku said that since the flood had come from the rain in the highlands, its passing was inevitable, and they begged Ftwari to stay for a little while. Truly, when the flood passed, Jamoga subsided. When the flood passed, Jamoga subsided. Although the flood passed, the river remained very high, and besides, the wooden bridge that had been there was broken and flooded away downstream. So they had no choice but for the horses and men to swim across the river. Having crossed the Chamoga River, the horsemen and runners tried to hurry on, but the black cotton soil was melted with the rain, and it caused the runners' feet to slip and the horses' hooves to sink. Struggling like that, falling down and getting up, they traveled all day and night. On the second night, while everyone was sleeping, they reached Dima. The night guard told the woman's interior room servant, and the woman's interior room servant woke up and her madame and told her that her husband came. Since she realized that she had not been prepared for him, she was startled and confused. She was even unable to put on her clothes properly, and in her confusion, much time passed. With her bedroom servant following her, she entered the Adarash where Ftwari was building a fire. He was sitting, and surrounding the fire were his relatives who had come with him. She looked at all the people who were there, looking very sad with their heads bowed. She saw that they looked like they were in mourning, and she saw that the person in the middle of them on the higher Medeb near the fire was Ftwari, and his eyes were swollen with blood, his gray hair unkempt. and his paired horns erect. He looked like chief of demons who was ready to torment a condemned soul. When she saw him like that, her knees began wobbling and trembling feebly. Then, like a drunkard who lost his mind completely, she staggered and went toward her husband. When she stopped to kiss her husband's knee, he yelled,
Do not kiss me. Your kiss is Judas' kiss. Go sit over there.
Twari ordered his wife, pointing to the end of the bed with his chin. Trembling, Mrs. True went and sat.
That one too. The would-be daughter. Call her. You.
He shouted, pointing to the servant who had followed his wife. The servant went to Sebel's interior room and woke her up. When the servant told Sebel that her father had returned, and he was angry, and everyone was afraid of him, and there was no one who breathed out a word, she understood the reason why he had come in was because he had heard her own thing. She was alarmed for a little while. She kept thinking for a moment, and she realized that it was the end of her brace and hope, and her fear, as well as the alarm she felt, left her. She decided to answer courageously all that he would ask her, without even being panic-stricken. Gently, she went to her father, and without even trying to kiss or greet him, she stood in front of him. Silently, she stood in front of him.
You. Bring my whip.
Futquari ordered his equerry. When he saw his daughter enter the door, his anger was burning on his face like a blazing fire.
Well, for everything, let the servants leave.
Balambarasmateko pleaded. After the servants left, and only the relatives remained, he said, Okay, tell me everything that has happened. You. He was unable to find an insulting word that would express his anger at his daughter.
Okay. You tell me before I turn your body inside out. Tell me, you unfaithful ignorant. You have disgraced me.
What do you know? What do you want to know? Ask me. Even before you get tired while turning my body inside out, let me tell you the truth. If it makes you happy to turn my body inside out, you do not even need to ask me. Here I am standing in front of you, Seble said, her hopelessness for life and the hatred she had for her father was like the hatred she had for Kosso, and the abhorrence she had for her father was like the abhorrence she had for fetidness, and the despise she had for him was as if he was a gnat. All this, being unable to be expressed by all words, was all seen on her face. Seeing his daughter's look on her face instead of anger, fear overcame Ftwari. When a child, who was a part of one's flesh and blood, bitterly hated a person, it would make that man feel sad and worried. Therefore, when Ftwari saw the feelings of hopelessness and hatred on his daughter's face, it seemed to him that that day was the end of his father-daughter relationship, and he became alarmed. The thing he came for, having ridden night and day from Marcos, and the thing that had made the people be in commotion, he was unable to think of it and get the way to speak it smoothly. He began getting troubled.
Seble, is that you or is it some other person?
He asked, studying her face. I am Seble. What seems so different to you?
The way you speak and your face.
Ask me what you want to know and let me tell you the truth. That is all I said. Even now, ask me and let me tell you.
I am your father. To get angry with a child did not start on me. Whether it is true or false, the news is going to touch my honor as well as yours, and is going to bring degradation and humiliation upon our family. The news has carpeted as far as Marcos, and finally it reached me. And if I became sad and mad, would it be something too much of me? If I did not get angry at it, at what would I be angry? Should it be true to a person like me? Is not it like death while alive? This is why I ask you to tell me the truth.
About what?
That person whom he entrusted to teach you, having broken our trust, he had been unfaithful to me and counted me as dead since I went to Marcos, and had raped you, and you became pregnant. This is what I have been told. Is this false or true?
He did not rape me, and I am not pregnant either. If you want to, show me to an elder lady. However, I do love him. When Seble said this, Guru Kasa entered, and having greeted everyone, he seated himself. Sadness could be seen on his face as well.
Thank you, my lord. You are the only one who would not break your word and betray your believer. Thanks to you.
Fatwari said, looking up to heaven and seeing God sitting on his glorious throne with his divine brilliance. Fatwari thanked God for ordering that the news be false. Then, turning around, he said,
I am glad it is false, but your love for him is something impossible. My daughter won't love the son of a begging farmer, a man whose progeny is pure in his father and mother, and who is seen as proud on the public square, who is the son of a great person and a great nobleman, has begged me, and I have promised you to him.
a farmer is also a human being. A son of a farmer is a son of a human being. He who knew that a nobleman's progeny is good and a farmer's progeny is dirty, and who would choose the nobleman's progeny? Let him worry about it. I love a man who you call the son of a farmer. He has done no wrong. There is no reason for him to be insulted only because I love him. If you want to, insult me, Seble said with tears falling down her face. Seble said with tears falling down her face, and her talk was interrupted by sobs.
That magician and master of spells, that witch doctor has cast a spell on her. She would not speak like this otherwise. Never mind. Let the morning come.
Fatwari exclaimed. He is not a magician. He is more of a gentleman than anyone who professes to be a nobleman, Seble said, Instead of crying, she became obstinate, and she was wiping her tears away. Hmm.
If you talk to me like that, being healthy, I would be sad, but you are not healthy. That magician student has cast some spell on you. That is the reason you speak to me in such a disgraceful manner in front of other people. I do not feel sad in what you are speaking. I am sad only because I have promised you to a nobleman's son, saying I am a nobleman.
From now on, know this. While my soul and flesh are together, I won't be sold to any other man whom I don't want. No matter what happens, my corpse won't be worth any price. You can play on it as you want to. When Seble said this with severe anger, Fatwari was frightened that the Satan that Bezebeh possessed her with would definitely make her take her own life, and he had her feet shackled and her hands tied together with a cloth waistband, and he had her locked in his interior room under his watch. No, Guru Gasa said when he saw that Seble was being shackled and tied up. His anger and sadness made him unable to tolerate the event. His anger and sadness made him unable to tolerate the event. And he went on saying,
No! You have tormented this girl so much until today. Why do you prolong her misery, being a fatherly enemy to her? Let this be enough. You threatened to whip her unless she told you the truth. And when she told you the truth, since it did not agree with your vain thoughts, you said that the Satan that had possessed her was the one who made her speak like that. And you tied her up and tormented her. What do you want her to do? Please, leave her alone and let her do whatever she wants to, and whatever she loves to do.
Oh, my daughter, Mashasha's daughter, is she going to marry the son of a farmer, the son of the poor?
If getting married to the farmer's son makes her happy, then what else is better for a father who loves his daughter, except to let her do what she loves to do? You should do whatever makes your daughter happy. If you think about the wealth, your wealth is enough for your only begotten daughter, even for many. Otherwise, we, her relatives, will help one another and set them up.
What about his progeny? What about his blood? You and your relatives helping one another. Will you make him a lord's progeny and the son of a nobleman?
A man is respected and revered because of his modest wealth and his abilities, but not by his progeny or his blood. You live in this house, getting many retainers administered, and are extremely self-confident. This is because of your wealth, not by progeny. Had it been by progeny, many of your relatives would not have been hired as farmers since they were unable to have an ox. Many of them would not have been drivers of merchant caravans.
beasts of burden.
Or loaders of merchants. However, let us leave all of this, please. Leave her alone. Let her marry whomever she wants to marry.
Guru Kasa pleaded.
Please. This man does not know what he is talking about. Say something to him for me. He said Seble should marry whomever she loves. A girl who is enchanted and possessed by Satan. Does she know what she wants? If a girl were healthy, would she love someone whose status is lower than her own? Even if she loved a beautiful girl like her, even another woman, did she ever stand in front of many persons and say that she loved so and would marry him? Please, make this man keep quiet for me. He told me to let her marry whom she loved. Just wait. You will see. Tomorrow, I will arrest that magician student, and just like a sluggard ox, I will have his back wounded and make him dispel the spell that he has spelled on her. After that spell repeats what she has just said today, truly you are smart, and I am ignorant. And as you have said, I am a fatherly enemy to my daughter. Now, do not say anything to me in the name of the Majesty.
Kasa, you are a cousin to Seble, but you are not her father. Therefore, if you say that for her happiness you think more of her than her father does, people will say you are naughty, vainly. Beelzebub has been backbitten and blamed for having enchanted her and possessed her with Satan. However, the enchantment and Satan that has come to the girl is your lesson. You preached her saying, all persons are human, and a person has to marry whomever he or she loves. And you got her to this point. You married a slave girl and made all your relatives embarrassed. As if this is not enough for you, please do not cause trouble getting in somebody else's house. Come to this house no more. Mrs. Troyanet said after she had been silent because her husband had gotten angry with her.
Yes, come here no more.
Ftkwari repeated.
I always come here only to see Seble, but I did not have any other affair. From now on, however, she is not going to be the same as she was before, and I won't come to see a different kind of Seble either. However, let me tell you one thing. Should anything happen to her, know that I am the one who will revenge for her.
Saying this, Guru Kasa struggled to swallow his tears, and after getting up, he went out, since Seble was tied up and kept in her father's interior room. He did not even say goodbye to her. Okay, it's the end of chapter 27. Good stuff. Really good. I appreciate you all for being here. Yeah, felt like we were huddled in, locked in together. Check out the Substack. Yeah, taking deep dives collectively. Like, comment, subscribe. I appreciate you all for being here. Good vibes, good energy. We were locked in. I appreciate you all. Yep. I'll see you next time. Later.